Thurman Munson. Let's talk about Thurman. You guys, your careers paralleled each other. You came to the Yankees in '68. He got signed in '68. He got called up in '70, and then you got promoted in '70 to PR.
Yes, in '68 was the first year I did Mickey's Fan Mail, and that was the year that Thurman Munson, the best catcher in the country, was drafted #1 by the Yankees. So our careers with the Yankees started out the same year, although he was on a much faster track than I was. But in 1970, I became the assistant PR director, working full-time with Bob Fischel. And Thurman came up from the minor leagues, immediately became the team's regular catcher, and won the American League Rookie of the Year award.
Munson was never known, with the press anyway, of having a great relationship with the press, but he had an outstanding relationship with his fan base. Can you explain that?
Well, he had kind of a gruff exterior, and he had a very bad relationship with the press. And yet the fans were able to see around that. They really liked his style of baseball. They liked that approach he took to the game, always the dirtiest uniform. You could see his commanding leadership from the catcher's position. He would take charge of a game. He would have been a great manager one day. So in any case, he had this bad relationship with the press, great relationship with the fans. And by 1976, he wins a Most Valuable Player award and takes the Yankees to the World Series for the first time in 12 years. It occurs to me at that time that somebody's probably going to do a Thurman Munson book, because that's what happens in this town. You win an MVP award, there's going to be a book. So I went to Thurman and I said, how would you like to do an autobiography? And Thurman says, well, I don't know, I'm pretty young, haven't done that much. I said, well, it's, you know, sports, accomplishments come young, and look at it like this, Thurm. If you don't do your own book, somebody else is going to do one about you. You won't make any money from it. You'll hate everything in it. You'll say the guy got it all wrong. And you'll just be angry about the whole project. If you do your own, look at it as an insurance policy against that happening. So he saw the logic in that, and we agreed to do the book. But as we embarked on the project, he said, does it have to be personal? I'm thinking, well, it's an autobiography. But as we were doing it, I knew he was holding a lot back. And we did the book to his satisfaction, which was my mission as the guy who wrote it. And it did fairly well when it came out. But in my heart of hearts, I knew that there was so much more to his story, and I'd always hoped that someday, maybe, I'd have a second chance at telling the full story.
Why, first of all, did Munson have such a terrible relationship with the media? And what was that really like for you in the '70s, being in the middle of that zoo? Right? It was a zoo, right?
It was a zoo. I was the public relations director. He had become the team captain in 1976, the year he won the MVP. The little story behind that is we met over the winter at the Carlisle Hotel in New York, and George Steinbrenner had a whole agenda of things for the upcoming season. And one of them was to name a team captain. And he said, Billy Martin was in the room, a lot of people in the room, and he said, now, Billy, this is up to you, but sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's the obvious guy, sometimes it isn't, but having a team captain is something you really ought to consider. I think it would be a good idea. So I looked around the room, and by then, I was one of the senior employees of the Yankees. I'd become the PR director in '73, and I was, even at that young age still, kind of the team historian. I was the one they looked to for historical facts about the franchise. And I did raise my hand and I said, actually, when Lou Gehrig died in 1941, his manager, Joe McCarthy, said that the position of captain would die with him. There would never be another Yankee captain. So everybody listened to what I said, and then Mr. Steinbrenner, in his wisdom, said, well, if Joe McCarthy knew Thurman Munson, he'd know this was the right guy and this was the right time. Good answer. So Thurman was made captain with some reluctance because he didn't want any more public responsibilities than he already had, which was to perform in front of the public, but he certainly didn't want to be more outgoing with the press. which usually a captain is, as you see with Derek Jeter. So he took it, but he didn't really change his attitude at all towards the press, who he just felt were too intrusive, wanted to know too much, didn't ask questions that were just about the ball game, and when they did, he didn't like the questions. He didn't think they knew what they were talking about. So it was a poisoned relationship with the press, and that's what I had to deal with as the PR director, having a captain who didn't talk to the press.
If there's no more questions, we're just going to take a quick. Oh, wait, what? No more comments. I said questions. No, I'm kidding. Do you have a comment?
Just put a question mark on it.
If it's got a question, I can mark on the end. I could take it, but if it doesn't,
At the end, we could make it a question.
we'll make it a question. Then go ahead.
Munson died on my birthday, which is August 2nd, right? August 2nd. My youngest son was in camp that year. He was about 8 or 9. So he sends me a birthday card, and then he adds to it, I heard that Munson died. I wore my cap at half-mast.
Oh.
The Munson book really brought out Munson fans and Yankee fans, and I got such great letters and emails after people read the book. And the most touching were the ones from people who were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old in 1979. And it was for them the first time they ever understood death and how it hurts. And because they were too young, by and large, to have lost a family member or anything like that, those were very, very touching letters to receive.